The IMF just cut Saudi Arabia's 2026 growth forecast by 1.4 percentage point. Headlines are calling it a major downgrade. And yes, it is a downgrade. But if you stop at that number, you are actually missing the more important story inside the data. So let's get into it. Welcome to Beyond the Numbers Daily Brief. I am Dr. Mohey-ud-din, an economist and senior economic planner with over 18 years of working across GCC, South Asia, and contributing to the project funded by the World Bank, UNDP, etc. This is where we go past the headline and read what the data actually says. Now, before we touch the Saudi number, you need to understand what happened to the global economy between January and April this year, because that context is everything. The IMF published its January 2026 World Economic Outlook update with a genuine optimism. Saudi Arabia's forecast was a healthy 4.5% growth for 2026. Then, in February 28, the military operation against Iran began. Iran retaliated by closing the Strait of Hormuz, the checkpoint for roughly 20% of global oil supply. Energy infrastructure in the region took damage. Oil prices spiked, and suddenly every major forecast model in the world had to be rebuilt from scratch. This is the environment in which IMF's April 2026 World Economic Outlook was published, and that is the lens through which you have to read Saudi Arabia's number. So, what does the April World Economic Outlook actually say for the Saudi Arabia? Growth forecast for the 2026 is 3.1%. That is down from 4.5% in January, a 1.4 percentage point downgrade revision. Among the world's largest economies, this is one of the sharpest single country cuts in this edition. But here is what the IMF's own press briefing makes explicit, and that is the part most commentators are skipping. The chief economist team said clearly the biggest factor behind that revision is the oil GDP downgrade, which was revised down by more than 3 percentage points on its own. Disrupted production, constrained exports, lower volumes through the Strait. So, a 1.4 headline revision is actually masking a much larger oil shock that is being partially offset by something else. And that something else is where the real story is. Let me put 2025 on a table because it is the foundation for everything. GASTAT, Saudi Arabia's General Authority for Statistics, reported full year 2025 GDP growth rate as at 4.5%. Strong year, but look at the composition. Non-oil activities grew at 4.9% and contributed 2.8 percentage point of that growth. Oil activities contributed only 1.4 percentage point. Even in a boom year, non-oil was already doing the heavier lifting. And it's not just a 1 year. Non-oil activities in Saudi Arabia have now posted positive growth for 18 consecutive quarters. Non-oil exports hit a record 25.9 billion US dollar in quarter 4 2025, up 114% since 2016. So the non-oil sector now accounts for over 53% of Saudi GDP. So when 2026 oil shock hits, it is hitting an economy that has meaningfully diversified its base. That's why Saudi Arabia is sitting at 3.1%, while the broader MENA region just got cut to 1.1%. Saudi Arabia also benefits from the East West pipeline, which can redirect roughly half of the oil that normally flows through the Hormuz, a structural buffer most of its neighbors simply don't have. But here, and this is where I want to be analytically honest with you, there is an important caveat. Non oil growth in Saudi Arabia is still significantly driven by the government expenditures, public investment, Vision 2030 project spending, PIF linked activity. This is what anchors domestic demand. And government expenditures is anchored by oil revenues. So if this conflict extends and oil revenues stay compressed and fiscal space tightens, non oil growth will feel that downstream. It won't be immune. The diversification is real. The decoupling from oil is incomplete. Those two things are both true at the same time, and any honest reading of this World Economic Outlook has to hold both. So here is my read. A 3.1% forecast in the middle of regional war with the strongest non-oil base Saudi Arabia has ever built. That is actually a story of structural resilience, not failure. Saudi Arabia Vision 2030 is providing a real buffer, but the test for 2027 is whether that buffer holds if the conflict extends and and the fiscal position tightens. That is the number I will be watching. That is beyond the numbers for the today. And if this was useful, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.